Good morning and welcome to another day in the Daily Reset. This one is particularly important because this is the first day of March. It is the first day of the final month of this quarter. Can you imagine? We are beginning to talk about the first quarter of 2026 gone. 10 months to go in 2026. If the rest of the year played out exactly how the first 2 months have played out, what kind of year are you going to have? If the rest of the year was just a reproduction, in fact, it's just an amplification, an expansion of exactly what has happened. And the question is, the kind of year you had at the beginning when 2026 started, if you are going to get there, what has to change? What has to change to get you there? At the last daily reset, we spoke about the word gives from the precept that the daily reset is based on. Intentionality gives me the power to embody the identity God designed for me. The identity God designed for me. And we said the word gives is not a perfect sense. It's a continuous present force. Intentionality is always present. You are always in intention. The question is whether you are in deliberate intention or default intention. Are you choosing the intention? Because intentionality is giving you the power. Intentionality, if you are in negative intention, it gives you the power to pick up excuses. It gives you the power to take shortcuts. But you can choose intentional, deliberate intentionality. And today I want us to look at the core word in this precept. Intentionality gives me the power to embody the identity God designed for me. And I want us to just look at these attributes. The word embody means to give body to give expression to make visible. I believe that faith becomes practical at the point of embodiment. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. It is the substance. It is when you can touch it, it means you have embodied the faith. Embodiment is the point at which your faith becomes visible. If you tell me you are disciplined, but I cannot see the embodiment, it means you are disciplined, probably just going around in circles. You are not embodying a bigger vision, because if you are, I should be able to see some output. A person who is embodying moves from knowing to being. When you are embodying, you go from knowing. In other words, it goes from mere knowledge. It becomes part of your identity. A person who is embodying begins to inhabit what they understand. This is how you close the gap between knowledge and execution. This is how you close the gap between capabilities and behavior. Because it's not everything we know that we do, and that is the gap. It's not everything we believe that we are capable of. And then it's not everything that we are capable of that we do. You can read complex textbooks or industry standard material in your area of work and become one of the experts within 4 or 5 years. Do you? Not necessarily. You can become one of the best spoken people in your area, become one of the strongest communicators, and automatically position yourself for leadership. That is a capability you have. The behavior, it's a different story. A person who is embodying bridges insight to identity. And this is how some of what we pick from the daily reset, from the 5-day return challenge, from Return 90, from the personal Strategy Summit, from the House of Mastery Summit, from the videos you watch, from the books you read, from the scriptures you listen to, the preaching, the sermons you consume. This is how it goes from insight to identity. Because when we show up to a learning environment and we receive information, that information most of the time will go all the way to capability. In other words, now I understand it, now I can explain it, now I can dissect it. It comes all the way to capability. The only way for it to go deeper is for me to add emotion to it. If I add emotion to it, which means I own it, it moves to the level of beliefs and values. And if I make it a personal standard, then it moves to the level of identity. If I have a powerful insight and I make it a personal standard, if the insight is if I show up consistently, things tend to work out, and I believe that showing up is important, and I make it a personal standard, I have moved all the way from insight to identity, making it a personal standard. If I can explain now that showing up with 10 over 10 order is powerful, showing up, and I believe that showing up with 10 over 10 is beneficial, I can feel it, and then I make it a personal standard, that I am someone who shows up with 10 over 10. I have moved from insight to belief to identity. A person who embodies, a person who practices embodiment makes the invisible visible. They take their faith, they take their thoughts, they take their beliefs, they take their capabilities and add emotion to it and produce a fruit that you can touch. And a person who embodies lives from design. They live from design. Performances always get adjusted based on the audience. A performance gets adjusted. If, in fact, when we teach in public speaking, the first most important rule you have to learn is know your audience. Because you perform for the audience in front of you, you adjust your speech for the audience in front of you. But embodiment that is driven by performance does not lead to accumulating growth. Embodiment that leads to accumulating growth is embodiment where the life that is being lived from design. Because what does the precept say? Intentionality gives me the power to embody the identity God designed for me. It doesn't say the identity God performed for me. Intentionality gives me the power to perform. It is design. The book of Job, it's aligned with my name, but one of the things that I really enjoy about the book is the depth of description of design. Who told the sea, the oceans, you can only come this far? That is design. About the foundations, it is just juicy and beautiful. One of the books I go to read, someone will find me reading it. They're like, you are reading it because you have the same name? No, that book is absolutely, it opened my eyes about, this is someone who is supposed to have a broken perspective, but in the midst of that broken perspective, they were able to recognize a superior design, a design that would endure beyond his own suffering at that time. Intentionality gives me the power to embody the identity God designed for me. To move from knowing to being, from merely understanding to inhabiting. To go from insight. Insight sometimes is merely at the level of behavior, but most of the time insight is at the level of capabilities. To travel from behavior to capabilities to belief, where I add emotion, so that I believe there's some force in my life that connects to that thing. But most importantly, to make it a personal standard. It's not everything that is going to become a personal standard, but the thing that I truly believe Intentionality becomes a personal standard that I am someone who is intentional. If it becomes a personal standard, then I am truly embodying. I begin to make the invisible visible. I stop changing myself for the audience, which means performing, and I begin to live consistently from a design. So let's go through the 5 elements of the daily reset. The first one is focus. When it comes to embodiment, intentionality gives me the power to inhabit my choices as an expression of the identity God designed for me. One of the most dangerous traps we run into is that we make decisions that we don't inhabit. We make decisions that we don't inhabit. What does inhabiting a decision entail? You just need to look at the house you live in, which is your habitat. You inhabit that house. What's the difference between inhabiting and visiting? If you came to your home once every 3 months, would you say that you live there? Inhabiting requires that you show up frequently. You show up frequently, that you spend significant amount of time there, that you are personally responsible for caring for that environment, for owning what goes on with that environment. The trap we run into is that we make a decision at the beginning of the year and we don't inhabit that decision. In other words, we don't stay with that decision long enough. Think of your core decisions for this year as a house. The 3 or 4 of them, whatever you choose to decide, they become the pillars of the house. Now you inhabit. In other words, you are paying the rent of your attention, your time, your energy into that house so that you are inhabiting. You are staying frequently enough, ideally daily. And this is why I believe one of the most transformative things you can do is just write your goals down every day. Whatever those goals are, clarity will continue to emerge, but most importantly, you show up, blank page, you write them out of your head. And then every time you write them down, you ask yourself why this matters, why this is important. You do that consistently, you inhabit the choices that you are making. This is embodiment, because the longer you inhabit that choice, the more frequently people start saying that is your home. You don't need to tell people. The first time you move to a rental, nobody knows that that is your home. You have to introduce people. Oh, I just moved up here. After a couple of months, you don't need to tell anyone because they know where you stay. How do they know where you stay? You inhabit. They know what time you're likely to leave, what time you come back. They know that on Sunday they will hear you playing certain music because you are inhabiting. What are the choices you are going to inhabit this year? Inhabit meaning every single day. This is the one thing when you sit down, you actually write it down. You actually talk about it consistently. It cannot be 40 things. It cannot be 30 things. It needs to be no more than 3 or 4 things that you come back to. Ideally 1 or 2. That this is the core. And it's not your employers. It's not your families. Your children will not be the thing that you inhabit. That is a given. A season will come when the children grow up and start inhabiting their own life. The only thing that lasts all through is you. And you better be inhabiting something that will remain with you no matter what happens. Intentionality gives me the power to bridge knowing and living. It gives me the power to bridge knowing and living as an expression of the identity God designed for me. This is going to probably unsettle you. Oh no, it will unsettle your neighbor. You will be okay. It's just your neighbor. This is the question that will unsettle your neighbor and it will not touch you. Write down 3 things that you know that you are probably not living to the extent that you could live them. Write down 3 things that you know. Please write them by hand. 3 things that you know that you could live more consistently, more deeply, that you could live better? Your neighbor is struggling. I can see you're doing okay. Let me actually look at the camera. It's your neighbor is struggling, but for you, I see that I see you're good. It's just your neighbor. Bridging knowing and living. And I particularly want to challenge you to identify things that relate to your most important goal for 2026. Things that relate to. And let me give you a simple way to figure those out. Write down Alcara. Is it something at the level of awareness, at the level of learning, at the level of change, at the level of action? Is it at the level of reflection and resilience or accountability? Let me now give you a suggestion that is based on Alcara. I want you to narrow all the three things to the three A's in Alcara. Have one thing at each level of Alcara. So the first thing will relate to awareness. Awareness. And one thing I would definitely suggest is, are you creating room to actually sit down and think with no social media, with nothing to read? When you sit down with a blank piece of paper, you're running a business. Sit down with a blank piece of paper, remove everyone, and it's just you and your mind and your consciousness, and see what comes out. Awareness, at the level of awareness. The second A in Alcara is action. Action. Here is my challenge for you. Number one, at the level of action, number one is volume. Volume. Number two is speed. Volume. Number two is speed. And number three is improving. In other words, better. Better, which is essentially practicing, such that you do it today, the way you do it tomorrow is not exactly the same way as today. So you throw volume, as long as you identify the right action, you throw volume, you throw speed, and you throw improvement at it. You only need 3 months, and that particular skill, whatever it is, you will be a different person in that area. Volume, speed. Volume means you don't just show up at the gym and then you lift the 10 kilograms, you lift it 5 times. No, you lift it 30 times. You lift it quickly so that in 20 minutes you are done. If you are calling clients, you don't call 10 clients and then you stop. You call 40 clients. Tomorrow, so it's volume, many, quickly. So that this is how we create the time to no longer be overwhelmed. Because if it's 1 hour, I throw volume in there and speed, and I'm improving. That 1 hour becomes better. In 2-3 months, I have carved out that 1 hour to be so productive, I can go spend the rest of the time with my kids, because I am really truly growing, becoming deeper, becoming better in this area. And then, of course, accountability. Who are you accountable to other than yourself? Are you leading yourself by yourself? If you're leading yourself by yourself, you have a lousy mentor. You have a lousy accountability partner. You are the worst accountability partner for yourself. You might be a good accountability partner for someone else. This is the worst accountability partner for me. This guy here. This guy will get me to take all kinds of shortcuts. Release. Intentionality gives me the power to release the script I perform from. Intentionality gives me the power to release the script When it comes to the script, I want you to pay attention to these three. On your script, there are lines of code that require you to act, to choose the path of least resistance. There are elements that require you to let your decisions be informed by fear, doubt, limits. It's not conscious. Then, of course, choosing the familiar. This is how we get stuck. Until you change the script, you take the action that is needed, not because it's the path of least resistance. You take the action that is needed so that fear, doubt, and limits don't hold you back. You take the action that is needed, even if it means stepping out of your familiar zone. Intentionality gives me the power to release the script I perform from as an expression of the identity God designed for me. Can you write this question down and then reflect about it? What script am I performing from? What script am I performing from? Where did it come from? Permission, intentionality gives me the power to live from what I know, not just carry it. Intentionality gives me the power to live from what I know, not just carry it. Embodiment is about living from the wisdom I have, the knowledge I have, the experiences I have. I don't know who came up with the label degree holder, because the truth is that most people are degree holders. They just hold the degree. You can't see the wisdom that the degree came with. Just the degree holder. If anybody convinces me about that statement, is when I look at some of our politicians. They are definitely degree holders. You can't see. They are holding the degree, but that's it. To live from what I know and not just be a degree holder. It's very easy to become a pain holder. You hold the pain, you have the scars. But where is the wisdom that came with the scars? Because the wisdom always comes with pain. Intentionality gives me the power to claim presence over performance. Because at the end of the day, intentionality is about presence. Deep aliveness is about presence. You cannot be deeply alive unless you are deeply present. That brings us to the declaration of intentionality. I used to feel powerless. I used to allow external forces and limiting beliefs, the old script, to hold me back. But today, as I choose to embody intentionality, I say enough is enough. From this moment, I am seizing back my power. From today, I have decided to direct my intentions. I'm committed to master my focus. I have resolved to take command of my actions. Today, I'm shading outdated beliefs, mindsets, and perceptions with the old script. I'm determined to shape my reality with purpose. I am eager to unlock my true potential. And I am willing to move to my next level.